I was a young lawyer at the time. I get this call from my boss. He said, I need you to see Jeffrey Dahmer.
He is pure evil, but you'd never know it by looking at him. But when you hear him, that's another story.
People were shocked, they were awed, and they couldn't turn away.
Honor, it is over now. This has never been a case of trying to get free. I didn't ever want freedom. Frankly, I wanted death for myself.
But Jeffrey Dahmer was a very complex person.
Troubled childhood. Jeffrey Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960 in Milwaukee, to parents Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. Initially described as a cheerful child, his demeanor shifted after surgery for a double hernia at age 4. His fascination with animal bones emerged early, collecting and preserving them in jars.
It was a very happy time when Jeff was first born, and for a couple of months it was like everything was brand new and very enjoyable and happy, looking forward to the future.
The family's frequent moves and his parents' divorce further isolated Dahmer, leading to increased withdrawal. By adolescence, Dahmer's behavior grew more concerning. Very early on, he realized he was into men. He had difficulty accepting his homo desires, which his conservative parents disapproved of, and based on their religious beliefs, they considered a sin.
He did seem to be awkward socially and just didn't feel comfortable.
Dahmer drank a lot of alcohol to deal with his homo desires since he was 14. He started drinking at school, which he often attended drunk.
Age 14 or 15, started having obsessive thoughts of violence intermingled with sex.
His best friend was also homo, and he was bullied at school. Dahmer was the school's clown. He became tense, disengaged, and friendless. The breakdown of his parents' marriage likely exacerbated his inner turmoil. Despite his early signs of distress, his parents' arguments and the unstable household environment seemed to deepen Dahmer's psychological struggles. These early experiences laid the groundwork for Dahmer's later crimes, suggesting a troubled upbringing and a disconnect from societal norms. His fascination with demise and his alienation from others foreshadowed the dark path he would eventually take. Early crimes and military service.
I wish I just kept on going, but I didn't. Turned around, picked him up, and that's when the nightmare became a reality.
His first encounters with the law were alarming. In 1978, he was arrested for hurting a youngster, but he got out on probation. On another occasion, he was fined for exposing his private organs. In a bid to turn his life around, Dahmer enlisted in the Army.
I said, Jeff, the doors are closing. I think perhaps that the armed services might be something that you need.
There, he gave in to his homo desires and allegedly physically forced 2 men after he drugged them. He was not discharged for that, however, but for his alcoholism. Returning to civilian life, Dahmer's troubles continued. First 4 victims. Jeffrey Dahmer's first slayings were chillingly calculated. He found his victims by frequenting homo bars and picking up guys who were drunk and vulnerable. In June 1978, shortly after graduating from high school, he picked up hitchhiker Stephen Hicks, luring him to his parents' home with promises of alcohol. Dahmer bludgeoned Hicks to lifelessness and then strangled him with a barbell. This set the pattern for his future slayings, selecting vulnerable victims and then brutally slaying them. To dispose of the evidence, Dahmer dismembered Hicks's body, packed the remains into plastic bags, and buried them behind his parents' house. He later exhumed the remains, crushed the bones, and scattered them in a wooded area. This macabre method of disposal would become a hallmark of his crimes. Dahmer's disposal methods were disturbingly methodical, reflecting a cold and calculating mindset. His ability to calmly and efficiently dismember his victims demonstrated a disturbing detachment from the brutality of his actions. These meticulous efforts to conceal his crimes allowed Dahmer to continue his slaying spree undetected for years, contributing to the escalating violence that would ultimately claim the lives of 17 victims. Charges and sentence.
He did take pleasure in the fact that he was in control of his own little world, that nobody knew what was going on, that he was the master of it.
Dahmer could fit in with any group, and you wouldn't say, oh, he must be crazy, or he must be a killer. That's why he was so successful.
In September 1989, Jeffrey Dahmer faced charges of physical exploitation and second-degree physical attack after luring a 13-year-old Laotian boy to his home under the pretext of taking nude photographs. Dahmer pleaded guilty to the charges, claiming that he believed the boy appeared older. This marked a disturbing escalation in Dahmer's criminal behavior, revealing a pattern of predatory behavior beyond slaying. While awaiting sentencing for this physical attack case, Dahmer committed another heinous act. In March 1989, he lured, drugged, strangled, intercoursed, photographed, dismembered, and disposed of Anthony Sears, an aspiring model. Sears became the first victim from whom Dahmer kept preserved body parts for an extended period, mummifying his head and intimate organs. Despite the severity of this crime, Dahmer received a lenient 1-year prison sentence on day release, allowing him to work during the day and return to prison at night, along with a 5-year probationary sentence. During this time, Lionel Dahmer, Jeffrey's father, recognized the need for psychological help for his son. He wrote a letter to the court requesting treatment before Jeffrey's parole.
I have tremendous reservations regarding Jeff's chances when he hits the streets. No program was ordered. Jeff was released 2 months early.
However, Dahmer was granted early release after serving only 10 months of his sentence. This decision to release Dahmer prematurely would have dire consequences, as it allowed him to resume his slaying spree unchecked, ultimately leading to more tragic loss of life.
Thoughts wanting to control them, to, I don't know how to put it, possess them permanently.
And that's why you killed them?
Right, right. Not because I was angry with them, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me. And as my obsession grew, I was saving body parts such as skulls and skeletons.
The leniency shown in Dahmer's sentencing and release would later be criticized for failing to adequately address the severity of his crimes and protect potential future victims. Last 13 victims and arrest. Following his earlier crimes, Jeffrey Dahmer's slaying spree continued with a horrifying escalation. Over the course of 2 years, he claimed the lives of 12 more victims, bringing his total to 17.
Now authorities believe the suspect, 31-year-old Jeffrey Dahmer, may be responsible for as many as 17 murders.
Dahmer's methods grew increasingly evil as he experimented with new disposal techniques, including chemical means and crude lobotomies. Despite the growing body count, Dahmer evaded suspicion due to missed opportunities by law enforcement. In one instance, police encountered a distressed young man in the company of Dahmer but failed to thoroughly investigate. This oversight allowed Dahmer to continue his slaying rampage unchecked. However, Dahmer's reign of terror came to an end with the arrest following Tracy Edwards' daring escape.
Emergency operator 71.
Okay, hi, I'm on 25th and State, and this is young man. He is butt naked. He has been beaten up. He is very bruised up. He can't stand. He's study fall out. He is butt naked. He has no clothes on. He was really hurt.
On July 22, 1991, police discovered Edwards, handcuffed and bleeding, wandering the streets. Edwards led them to Dahmer's apartment, where they uncovered a house of horrors. The apartment was littered with evidence of Dahmer's crimes, including photographs of dismembered bodies, preserved body parts, and containers of acid used in his gruesome experiments.
Milwaukee police found body parts in a North Side apartment, and now they wonder if they've uncovered some kind of death factory.
Dahmer's arrest marked the culmination of years of unchecked violence and horror. It exposed the systemic failures of law enforcement to recognize and intervene in the face of clear warning signs. preventing further tragedy and bringing Dahmer's reign of terror to a decisive end. Trial, imprisonment, and demise.
Your Honor, it is over now. This has never been a case of trying to get free. I didn't ever want freedom. Frankly, I wanted death for myself. This was a case to tell the world that I did what I did not for reasons of hate. I hated no one. I knew I was sick or evil or both.
Jeffrey Dahmer's trial began in January 1992, marked by intense media scrutiny and public outrage. Initially pleading not guilty, Dahmer later changed his plea to guilty but insane, hoping to mitigate his sentence.
He related this was a person he really liked. He indicated that he had filleted his heart and kept it in the freezer, and he also kept his bicep. He indicated that he had eaten the thigh muscle of this subject, but it was so tough he could hardly chew it. He then purchased a meat tenderizer and used it on the bicep.
However, the jury ultimately found him guilty but sane on all counts after approximately 10 hours of deliberation. In February 1992, Dahmer was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms in prison, with an additional term added later. In prison, Dahmer initially faced isolation and hostility from other inmates. However, he eventually adjusted to life behind bars and found solace in religion. He engaged in reading religious materials and sought spiritual guidance from a local pastor.
He said, if it all happens naturalistically, what's the need for a God? Can't I set my own rules? Who owns me? I own myself.
He's a very affable, congenial, likable sort of person. I always felt like I was dealing with a small boy in a grown-up man's body. He could get real excited and interested.
This religious conversion marked a profound shift in Dahmer's demeanor and outlook as he sought redemption for his heinous crimes. Tragically, Dahmer's life came to a violent end on November 28, 1994. He was brutally slain by fellow inmate Christopher Scarver while working with him and another inmate in the prison gym. Scarver bludgeoned Dahmer to lifelessness with a metal bar, along with another inmate, Jesse Anderson, who was also slain in the attack. Scarver later claimed that, "God told me to do it." Dahmer's demise sparked mixed reactions, with some expressing relief at his demise, while others mourned the loss of justice and closure. Signing off for now. Tune in next time for another riveting episode.